Leaders add value. Other things I've had to say. You have a scarcity mindset. It's fear that's holding you back. Call out the scarcity and show them the alternative. The alternative to a scarcity mindset is abundance. Why do they have a scarcity mindset? Start asking some questions. Where's that coming from? You're not working hard enough. Your feet are not matching your mouth. And that is hard to say. That really is. Because sometimes people think they're working really hard because they spend hours and hours on plexus every day, but really they just think about plexus a lot. And they might not be taking enough action. And so if people's feet are not matching their mouth, like it doesn't matter how big your dreams are if your drive does not match it. And that is hard to say to somebody that you really love, but if you love them, you'll say it. You're not going to move forward in your business until you are consistent. Here's a hard one to say too. Your pride is making you miserable, and it's causing you to compare yourself to everybody else, or you are jealous. And guys, that's a sin issue. Sometimes I'll hear people say, I'm way too competitive for this. Like, I'm competitive. I'm like, honey, that ain't competitive. That's jealousy, what that is. You're spending too much time dragging people, and you're not developing leaders who are all in. You're not being a leader. You flat out are not even showing up. You're not being a leader. You're not adding value. You're spending too much time trying to encourage your team and not enough time telling them what they need to hear so that they can grow. What's the root of that? Is that fear? Why do you feel the need to just encourage somebody or validate them? And why do you feel the need to get in the pool with them? Is that fear? You need to be needed? Like, what is that? Okay, so I know that was a lot. I don't have time for questions because it's time for lunch, right? I think. So here's what I'm going to do. This afternoon, I'm going to model this for you, coaching. But there is time? Okay. Well, then I'll take a question. Anybody have a question about coaching?
I'll have another question.
What?
I have very specific people who will instantly, cut me off if I say the wrong thing. How do you step around those people? Or do you just tell them and let them cut you off? They get hurt easily, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I would say ask more questions. So a lot of times you can ask people questions to lead them to the conclusion that they need to land at. You can ask more questions. Somebody's really sensitive, then you're just going to have to kind of, if you know what the issue is, then you got to kind of keep asking questions that take the conversation there and lead them to their own conclusion. That's a great question. Very rarely do I actually have to say something that's hard to somebody. It's not often. A lot of times when you engage in this process of coaching and asking questions and listening, people have their own light bulbs, and then they come up with their own action plan and off they go. But sometimes people don't see it, but that's rare. Who else had a question? Leah?
How do you know the difference or recognize the difference between someone who's having a mindset issue and then you dragging someone? Because I feel like people can get into a mindset rut and then you end up feeling like you're dragging. How do you kind of delineate?
That's a great question. I would say look at their feet. What action are they taking? Like if they recognize that the mindset is an issue, what homework are they doing to correct the problem? Because mindset issue, that's something we have to all be very intentional about, right? Like we don't normally, unless you're Emily Hawes, you don't just wake up with sunshine and rainbows every day. Like we all have, Emily does have mindset issues too sometimes that she struggles with. But she overall has glass half full type of personality. So I would say that's not most people. So we all have to be intentional to guard our mindset by listening to something or reading something or being around someone who is going to get us in a good mindset. And you got to do it every day. It's like bathing. You got to do it every single day. Like you know how you got to wash your body every day? You also got to wash your mind every day. Because it gets real dirty real fast. What? Yes, exactly. Yes, that's a great point. That's biblical. Renew your mind. Yes.
So you're best friends with a lot of your team. How do you friendship call?
Oh, that's a hard one. Maybe I'm gonna let Christina answer this one. She said, so you're best friends with a lot of your team. How do you differentiate a coaching call between your friendship call? I know that's a terrible answer. No, I'm talking to me. Did you say it? No, I was talking about myself. Go ahead, sorry.
It just never ends. It's a constant, when you love somebody and you're building a business, you're constantly coaching them.
Yeah.
It.
So that's what I was saying earlier when I said, well, my coaching calls are like every day. Because when I talk to my people, like coaching just organically happens. It's not systematized. But if I was going to have a pretty coaching system, that's what it would look like. Beginning of the month coaching call. And then you can also say, okay, I definitely want to hear about your weekend and your lake trip, or that problem with your son. Can I call you Thursday at 2 to talk about that? Right now, these are my business hours. Right now, we got to address this issue, but I definitely want to hear about that. So maybe set a later time, set the expectations up front, and let them know you do want to connect, but right now you only got 20 minutes to do this, or 30 minutes to do this, and then you'll connect with them whenever. That way they don't feel like you're just all business, Yes, a friend would understand. That's a good point. A friend would understand. That's a great question. All right, anything else? Yes?
So if you have somebody who you've asked all the questions that you would ask, and it's like you can't crack the open, you can't get them to go deeper than the surface level.
I can't hardly hear you. Can you speak up? Or can everybody else be quiet? That would be great. That's me saying hard things. Y'all be quiet so I can hear Rachel.
If you have somebody who won't open up, you've asked a ton of questions and you don't know what else to ask, it's like you can't crack them open. At what point are you okay, I can't do anything else for you until you're honest with me?
Yeah, so they're not honest with themselves, or they're not willing to be vulnerable with you.
They're also not honest with me when we're on a call. I can't crack this person. We know there's mindset going on and we'll ask all the questions, but it's very superficial.
So this goes back to what I was saying about people they gotta have a certain amount of humility to be able to admit that they don't know it all, or that they do have a problem. A lot of times when I'm coaching somebody, if I'm talking to somebody and they ask me a question and when I answer it, their first response is, yeah, that's what I'm doing, yeah, that's what I'm doing, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm thinking, why do you need it? Obviously what you're doing is working, So they have to be coachable, and they have to be humble enough to admit that they need help. I would say that's pride, and depending on the situation, it will depend on who the person is. If it's somebody I have a good relationship with and I feel the need to say the hard things so they can grow because I care about them, then I probably would just call it out. Or I think it's okay to be honest about how you're feeling about the coaching. Ask something like, is this effective for you? Do you feel like that this time that we spend together is a good use of your time? Because honestly, I'm feeling like you're doing so great that you don't even need my help. I would say that.
It's a nice way of saying, how's that working for you?
Yeah. So they have to be coachable, and they do have to be vulnerable. Thank you, Christine, my best friend. Got me some Reese's. All right, that was a great question too. Any other questions? Are we ready to lunch then?
Lunch is here, so 5 minutes will be ready.
Okay, so if you have another question, maybe put it, or come to me at lunch. I'm happy to talk to you about it, or put it in the diamond thing. And then also, we have an hour this afternoon, and I'm going to model coaching, but I need some volunteers. And here's the thing. I'm not going to allow you to volunteer yourself, because I need a certain type of person. For this to be effective, I need a certain type of person up here. And your leader would know if you are that type of person that I'm looking for. So I'm going to need you leaders to come to me and write somebody's name on a piece of paper, just hand it to me. But I need somebody who, first of all, they have to not really struggle with a fear of what people think. Like if they're really addicted to other people's opinions, then they're going to be unwilling to be vulnerable in front of a room full of very successful people. So I need somebody who doesn't particularly struggle with a fear of what people think of them. And then also, they have to be a good listener and not talk too much. I want to make sure that this experience is valuable for every single person. And if I'm trying to coach them, but they just talk the whole time, we're not going to get very deep. So I need somebody who listens well and is not like a rambler or gonna interrupt me before I can even develop a thought. And they need to kind of feel stuck in some area. They need to kind of feel stuck. Like they maybe they don't exactly know what it is that's holding them back, but they are working. And they are coachable. They need to be coachable. Like you've seen them, like when you give them action or they come up with their own action, or you make suggestions, they do listen to that. They take that feedback and they receive it well. Okay, so that's kind of the type of person I'm looking for. So I need you leaders to help me out and write somebody's name on a piece of paper and hand it to me so that I can pick somebody to coach in front of everybody. I've only done this one time before, and I got really good feedback from it, so hopefully it'll help you guys too. All right, so I think it's almost lunchtime, but until Sue calls you back there, then I guess y'all can go potty or whatever you do.